When it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind to Rob with John Pollock and waiting the 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind to Rob for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind to Rob for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to Raw. I'm John Pollock, joined by Wai Ting. How are you, Wai?
Doing pretty well. I'm doing great. You?
I'm doing well. How was your weekend?
It was good. Yeah, it was very busy, eventful. So, good. Yeah, a lot of wrestling.
Yes. Is that how you will remember this weekend? There was a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
The Royal Rumble.
It's very eventful.
Worlds collide. I mean, what a weekend. January 25th, 6th, and 7th were.
UFC, Bellator. I mean, shit. It was like...
It was packed.
Yeah. Life-changing, I think.
It was. You were staring at a ring for the whole weekend, it seemed, between all the wrestling you had to watch. How are you?
Oh, God. I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful.
Are you still jet lagged? How are you feeling now? Now you've been back a week. You were kind of feeling it this weekend. You thought you were still kind of exhausted Sunday night, but I maintain that was just because of Bayley and Lacey Evans. But how are you feeling now?
You know, I certainly felt it last night. Tonight I was full of energy. Like I was good for this Raw. And I woke up pretty early today too. So, yeah, maybe. I don't know what that says. I don't really know how jet lag really works, to be honest.
I had like your hours. I went to sleep last night at 4:30 in the morning, and then I woke up at 9, and here we are.
How do you feel?
I'm okay. I never really got super tired today. I just felt in my mind that I didn't sleep a whole lot, but nonetheless, here we have quite a bit to talk about on this episode of Raw, so we're going to be moving to that soon, but we have a lot coming up on this show.
Well, we're on the road, John. We're officially on the road now to WrestleMania.
The 10-week, 69-day road to WrestleMania.
10 weeks. I think they should. Yeah. How far could you get in 10 weeks if you were to drive that length?
You could get pretty damn far in 10 weeks.
Can you go from like Alaska to like South America?
In 10 weeks?
Yeah. Can I even Google map that?
Yeah, you could absolutely Google map that. We're going to see the distance here. So we're going to go driving distance. What do you think it is? From Anchorage, Alaska.
To what's the most southern, like?
Let's just say to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Okay, just for the sake of finding a Southern American location. So...
Actually, I don't know.
Boy, this is taking me to where the hell am I here? What would be your guess here?
Can you actually map? Like, are there actually roads?
It's sending me to this date and time website. How many hours? That's what I'm looking for.
I mean, is that even drivable? Like,
I don't know if it is. I don't know who in their right mind would ever try this.
Panama City.
The fact that I'm having such a difficult time pulling this up probably tells you that it's
podcasting.
But like, why would it not be? Like, there's no body of water that's separating them, so it's like it can be done. It's just an extraordinary amount of time that it would take, and
maybe Google Maps just doesn't have it. Like maybe they haven't mapped out a certain path. Let me just ask: can I drive from Alaska to?
I'm more so just
what is this?
Curious now.
Southern country, Argentina.
Yeah, it can't. Google Maps can't calculate the driving distance from Rio de Janeiro to Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay, so the Pan American Highway, the longest road in the world, at its fullest extent, the Pan American Highway is a network of roads stretching from Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, to Ushuaia, Argentina, a distance of around 48,000 kilometers or 30,000 miles.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so how long would it take me to drive 48,000 kilometers?
Okay, how about this? From Anchorage, Alaska to Toronto. What do you guess? Okay. This one, it does calculate. Okay, 4,000 miles from Anchorage to Toronto. How long do you think that would take in your car?
4,000. I mean, I've heard of people doing like cross Canada road trips.
Yeah, this is not out of the realm of, you could do this.
If you're driving, I'm going to say maybe 10 days.
67 hours. That's not crazy.
Like 4 days?
It's like 4 days.
Oh,
Under
wow,
4
okay.
days.
So then that means this is not a big deal
It's like
at all.
3 days. Yeah.
Okay, so 48,000 kilometers. How do I calculate this?
48,000 kilometers.
We're probably
we just calculated 4,000. So like 10 times that is what you're looking for.
Oh, okay. So 4 times. So what, 40 days?
Probably be taking you about 670 hours.
So in 10 weeks, you really could like get around the world, I think. The road to WrestleMania is like a world. Like you can go around the world in 10 weeks. Are you kidding me? That's all that just to calculate this equation. We spent.
Guess what?
Like
to fly
5 minutes.
from Toronto to Tampa, it's about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's the road we're taking.
You can do that in a morning.
Yeah,
which is what we're probably going to be doing.
Yeah, sorry to take up all of your podcast listening times. Like the people on YouTube are really going to get mad. Those people, especially who couldn't be bothered to look down into the description for the start time of the actual review, they're really going to be upset.
Well, that's the kind of banter you get here on this show. All right, let's get into things. I'm mindful of the times of these shows, and then I go and do an 8-minute bit here with you about driving from Anchorage, Alaska. But let's quickly go over a few things coming up on the show. We're going to have our review of Raw. We're going to go through all the news, and then at the end of the show, we have our results early. So we're going to be going through the results of the Royal Rumble pool at the end of the show. So we will get to that. So hang tight, and our man Chris Engler has been able to process the winners and my personal favorite, all of the bizarre entries that were submitted. I look forward to reading all of these as well.
Chris has been on a bit of a road to somewhere himself. He did much of this calculating on a layover from his trip to Hawaii. So thank you, Chris.
We appreciate it. All right, coming up this week, looking at the schedule, Tuesday night, Way and I are back with our Ask Away mailbag show. It's our first one this year, so you can tune into that on Tuesday night if you're a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. Wednesday night, we've got Rewinded Dynamite and Up Next coming your way, chronicling all of the Wednesday night festivities.
Hey, congratulations to Braden and Davey on hitting 200 patrons. This was a goal that they had for the end of the year, but they already reached it like less than a month into the year, so big congrats to those guys.
Yes, they're going to be setting their lofty goals even higher now for 2020. Congratulations to both of them who have put in a lot of work, a lot of hard work into building up that base for themselves. So congratulations to Braden and to Davey as well. On Thursday, it's the return of the Cafe Hangout. Dare I say, Way, the season premiere of the Cafe Hangout?
I dare you to say that. I did it.
I did it. I double dog dare you to join me on the season premiere of the Cafe Hangout live this Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And Way, we're going to be joined by a guest.
That's right. Yeah, Gareth from Grapple is going to be joining us. He is the creator of Grapple. And those of you who use Grapple know, I think, how great of a resource it is for trying to see what the top matches were for the end of the year. Many of your end of year lists, you could just, go on the app and figure it out. And Gareth himself has taken all that information that he's been collecting, and he's basically made the Grapple 100, I believe that is what he called, which indicates the top 100 matches of the year. I believe they're, best of lists about the top wrestlers of the year as well. So he, I believe, would probably possess a great unique insight into a best of list with a lot of actual statistical data. So I wanted to talk to him about it and see what all that was about.
Yes. So we'll be chatting how you tabulate match ratings with Gareth. I'm looking forward to that. Should be fun. We'll have your phone calls as always, and whatever else is going on in the world of wrestling this coming Thursday on the Cafe Hangout. That is available for all patrons to watch live and call in. Friday night, we've got Rewind to SmackDown with myself and Way. That will also be on the Cafe. And then Sunday, we have Thunderstruck with W.H. Park, and he is going to be joined this week. He is going to be joined by...
I'll figure it out. You have? Oh, do you have? Sounds like there's going to be a lot of editing for this podcast.
I should have had the schedule right in front of me.
Number 14, right? It will be number 15.
I've got it here. Oh, he's with Rich Kraetsch from Voices of Wrestling. Jushin Thunder Liger, Tiger Mask 3 from the Tokyo Dome show, January 4th of 1994. So that should be a really fun match. Mask versus Mask from the Tokyo Dome that year. So Rich Kraetsch, our friends at Voices of Wrestling, will be represented on Thunderstruck. And then Sunday night, while everyone's watching the Super Bowl, Wei and I are going to be chatting about the new beginning cards that New Japan is putting on this weekend. They have 2 cards. We'll be chatting the highlights of those cards, which will be a Patreon show Sunday night for everyone to look forward to.
I'm so excited.
It sounds like it.
So
it's a quiet weekend. Yes. I'm glad that we have a kind of a come down weekend. Even though there's still, 2 New Japan shows, there's still stuff to watch, but not like this past weekend. This past weekend there was quite a lot to cover, to watch. So this weekend, will you be watching the Super Bowl at all?
No, I didn't even know it was happening.
Do you know who's playing?
I believe I had deduced that it was the Browns and the other Brown team.
No. It is the 49ers and the Chiefs. Kansas City and San Francisco.
So it was the red teams.
The red teams are playing, yes.
Right, whatever. Okay.
Yep, that's it. Shakira and Jennifer Lopez are on the halftime show.
Great. Awesome.
It's exciting stuff. All right. Let's move on to the news. There's a fair amount of it to talk about, and we can start with this report that just dropped from Ryan Satin at Pro Wrestling Sheet, and I'll just read this from Pro Wrestling Sheet. Sources tell us that Andrade, real name Manuel Oropeza, has violated the company's wellness policy. He was told of the suspension this morning. It's unclear what substance he tested positive for at this time. In an effort to write him off television for the next 30 days, the 30-year-old wrestler was disqualified from his match on Raw tonight due to interference from Zelina Vega. There's more to the story here, but that's essentially the summary here, that Andrade looks like the reason they did the big angle is, well, he is going to be disappearing for a month.
Yeah, and for those who didn't watch Raw, he took a hammerlock DDT onto concrete from Roberto Carrillo. Interesting that they, didn't just take the belt off of him.
No, and I would wonder if they found out about the results of the test if it was Monday morning, or if they knew on Sunday. You would think if they had known Sunday, they would have potentially taken the title off him, unless they look at it that, okay, we're not changing whatever plans we have. There's a reason Andrade has this title. We're just going to, if you are going to get a wellness policy violation, at least it's happening now and not too close to WrestleMania. He'll still be back with plenty of time if he's got a Mania program in mind and just everything's on hold for 4 weeks.
Suppose it might, maybe lead some to believe that he'll probably be holding that belt all the way until Mania if they're keeping it on him here. And not to expect any U.S. title defenses for the next 30 days.
No. What will we do without the United States title in circulation for the next month?
No, interim belt, obviously.
Oh, maybe Humberto could have had an interim title created for himself.
Yeah. You told me about this this news prior to us going on air, and I think my immediate reaction was just how peculiar it is that in WWE, at least, if somebody fails something, they still get to perform that night before they're just straight up suspended. Whereas, like, I guess in any other sport, if you're caught with something, I don't see, a league allowing somebody to play one more game before you can actually get suspended.
Yeah, you do have the difference that this is not a competitive sport, so it's not like you're putting somebody in jeopardy against an athlete with some kind of supplement inside of them or whatever the substance is. But yeah, there was a time when you were immediately, when they started it, they would have times where they would write people off. But I seem to recall there was also a period where they wouldn't even do that much. And they clearly are doing that now, that they're not going to let a wellness violation get in the way of their creative plans or at least a way to write someone off. Anyway, it's the WWE wellness policy, which I think certainly comes with certain levels of scrutiny as well. And I guess it's more so interesting just the fact that they went the longest period of time with no suspensions. And now all of a sudden we've gotten a handful of them over the last few months.
Yeah. Do you think that's just, I mean, who knows why that is? Right?
Absolutely no idea, rhyme or reason. In terms of Edge, so a lot has been discussed about him. I think it's very clear by the end of tonight, the reports that it would be Edge and Randy Orton at WrestleMania. We'll get into the actual angle itself. But Edge is back. He looks to be doing WrestleMania with Randy Orton. And I guess the question, Wai, could you see him working before WrestleMania, or do you think that they will just hold off and wait until Mania? Because to me, the card that I would look at and just question is, do you throw Edge on that Saudi Arabia card?
You know, I think with, like, initially while talking about this topic last night, I mean, with all the possibility of fresh opponents that are out there for Edge, I would have figured he would have at least done a couple tag matches, maybe most notably an actual Rated RKO tag team run. But seeing the angle that they conducted here, the severity of the angle that they conducted here, I think it was specifically done so that you could justify Edge being out for a pretty sustainable amount of time, all the way up until WrestleMania, where he already has a ready-made program set up for him with Randy Orton. So with the Saudi Arabia show, I think happening, you know, what feels like relatively soon, I would say, for a an angle of I think this sort of magnitude, I don't expect him. You know, other than the fact that, you know, for a run-in. But then again, it's like, can you really, like, would Edge himself maybe justify? Well, I'm sure if the payday might be right, maybe it would be justified. But I mean, flying all the way out there just to do an angle with Orton, I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, like the way things were being set up tonight, I easily could have seen them doing, you know, the tag match in Saudi Arabia, and then you do the turn right afterwards, and you've still got a month to build up WrestleMania. But they went right to the angle tonight. So, you know, no hints of anything for Saudi Arabia tonight, to be honest. And that's your next major pay-per-view. There was really nothing, like no teases of anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I guess this was like a, you know, a pretty big post-Rumble type of show. Maybe get that out of the way. Do you expect Brock to be on the show?
In Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Probably, I mean, he's been on every one. I just don't know where you put him in. They really haven't built anything towards him. I wouldn't want to see him and Drew in like some kind of tag scenario. Like Brock's really not someone you pair with anyone. I don't know. I thought maybe tonight with Brock there, you would have teased something for Saudi Arabia, because I can't imagine the Saudi Arabia show without Brock on that show. So yeah, that's a interesting question of what he ends up doing on that show, and what the makeup of that card is. May not be until next week that we start to see an indication of where they're going. So in regards to the Royal Rumble, Dave Meltzer reported on this. I was told the same as well, that the initial plans saw Shayna Baszler and Roman Reigns set to win the Royal Rumble matches respectively, and at some point they changed those plans. I was told, I don't know what day they made this switch, but I was told as of last Wednesday, they were no longer winning the Rumble matches. And do you think, you know, in hindsight, did they go the right direction in both cases? I was very high on what they did with Drew McIntyre. I think that was the best course of action for the men's match.
I agree. I think Drew was absolutely the right call. I think Aleister Black will get his time. It didn't necessarily feel like it needed to be this one. It just feels like he's just starting still. As far as, you know, Charlotte goes, I mean, that one I think is definitely much more debatable. I think many were expecting Shayna to win. Without knowing exactly what they had planned for Charlotte or Shayna Baszler at Mania, I can't really say what was the right call. You know, I feel like
Dave has reported that Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler is currently scheduled, and I was told shortly after the Rumble that the plan right now is not for Charlotte to be challenging for the Raw or SmackDown women's title. They have an idea in mind for her for another singles match, and they didn't hint at that tonight, but So Charlotte, it's like it doesn't look like she would be paired with Becky or with Bayley for WrestleMania.
So they will somehow get the title shot off of her.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay. So NXT then.
You could go that way, and that brings the other option. Like that was the promo tonight, was that she will be going for a championship, and I think you could certainly look at Rhea Ripley being a more interesting option than Bayley.
That would be cool, actually. Yeah, that would be cool. They could have gone the Shayna route and then had a straight line to Becky.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, all the pieces will fall into place. It really is just as about like who you want to give that initial attention to. I think all things considered, I would have given it to Shayna. I think that sort of like spotlight being given on her, that sort of credential of being a Royal Rumble winner, would have added that much more to her current push. And I think would have added a lot more fuel to a Shayna versus Becky match, which I see getting a few more headlines than Charlotte versus, even if it was somebody like Rhea Ripley.
We mentioned on Sunday's post-show, AJ Styles, it was believed suffered an injury, and then afterwards, news was reported about him suffering a shoulder injury. He was held off of Raw tonight. We did not see him, but I did go and rewatch the spot where he took the spear from Edge, and in taking it, like he rotated over and came down on his shoulder, and it was just a rough landing, and he immediately went over to the corner. He was communicating with one of the officials, and then you saw him just kind of go over to Edge, whisper something to him, and Edge just tossed him out, and Edge seemed to look concerned for him. So I guess it's just I don't know what the update is on him, how severe the injury is. Hopefully it's something that is not going to keep him out for too long, but probably smart keeping him off the show tonight if there's any risk of the injury being serious.
It is a crucial time right now, for anybody. I'm sure, everybody's trying their best not to get injured and having to miss something like a WrestleMania weekend. So hopefully he can recover in time.
And two final quick notes here. At the New Japan show tonight in Durham, North Carolina, Marty Scurll showed up to challenge Jay White for Supercard of Honor. So that looks to be that direction. And from over the weekend, the Briscoe brothers announcing they have re-signed with Ring of Honor. And I think that the Briscoe brothers at this point you have to imagine they're probably going to end up with Ring of Honor for the duration of their careers. They seem very happy there. And the talk had always been like, they are probably unlikely to go to WWE just because they don't want to uproot their families and where they live. And this is a year where with the AEW option, moving wouldn't have been an option for them. And I would have been curious. I'm sure that they would have had interest, but I think they genuinely really like where they are and probably got good deals, you would guess. Yeah,
you would think so. I mean, how much of it, of all this do you think has to do with like other factors, if you know what I mean?
Are you talking about like other companies may not want to go?
I mean the Briscoes specifically, and their maybe some of their personal views.
Well, I mean, the big one is that tweet that Jay Briscoe made a number of years ago about his what would be taught to his children in school, and that was certainly not a great look for him. I do not think that would disqualify other companies from being interested in
even a company like AEW that seems to pride itself on, I think, inclusivity.
I think that it was a tweet that many years ago. I just don't know if that's going to hold you back from something that for all we know, he may not think that way now. I just don't think if. Yeah, and I mean, he would hardly be the only person in this industry that is. I mean, look at Scorpio Sky. I mean, he went through something years ago, and he's been very remorseful for that and apologized for it. And it was something that was not held against him for at least when AEW was getting up off the ground, and he has addressed it. He spoke to Chris Van Vliet about that and has been, he's apologized for it. I think that you are going to get instances where, guys have said things in the past that I don't know if companies are going to draw a line and say we will not hire that person.
Mm.
All right, so those are all of your news items for the day. There's a lot going on, so you can get caught up at postwrestling.com. And we'll head over to Raw from San Antonio, Texas at the AT&T Center. And opening up the show, the new voice of Raw, Tom Phillips, along with Jerry Lawler and Byron Saxton. So we have a new play-by-play voice and the return of the three-man team.
Yeah, and the return of Byron Saxton. You know, we talked about this a little last night, and I it's not that I think Vic was doing a bad job at all, but in fact, technically I feel like they're both kind of the same, he and Phillips. But I do find myself a bit more familiar with the voice of Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton, because for some reason I still tend to associate Vic Joseph's voice with 205 Live and not necessarily like a main roster product. So I kind of like this team more, and I enjoyed Byron here as well. I think as a WWE color guy, he's become pretty good, especially here without Graves there to overshadow him. I think he could start to shine.
I was fine with all of this, and then I heard the line of all lines when Jerry Lawler said that, to quote a fellow Memphis native, Justin Timberlake, Byron, we're bringing Saxy back.
Saxy?
He said, we're bringing Saxy back in reference to Saxton.
Oh, okay. Huh. That's pretty good, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. That could be our show title if we're really scrambling. Yeah, I personally, I like Vic Joseph. I think that he was really thrust into a difficult spot to all of a sudden you're on Raw and calling it. I really hope that he's, kept, put him on another show, and he's young enough that I hope that, they can groom him for something down the road. This is obviously a setback for him and probably, difficult whenever you have to take a demotion when you're getting pulled from a show. But I hope that he just lands somewhere and in the future he could be up for a play-by-play role, because I do think he is good. He was just put in a, into a big role, and it kind of calls for, I think all of these play-by-play announcers, especially on Raw, you are very much still in the shadow of Jim Ross, that is where people project that large personality that has that commanding lead of your broadcast. And I think Michael Cole dealt with that for years, and I think all of these announcers, that's the comparison, especially when you're in the lead seat on Raw.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, no doubt. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, living up to that standard. It's a lot of pressure living up to a wrestling audience, which, as we know, John, can be very critical. And it's a high pressure job, just simply having Vince McMahon in your ear directing you at all times. So, he's still young, and like as we've seen, they aren't afraid to move people around the moment something isn't up to their standard or their liking. So I have no doubt he'll find his way back onto Raw or SmackDown or NXT or any of these other shows in a pretty quick amount of time.
This was also Tom Phillips' third night in a row with Worlds Collide, the Rumble, and his voice was certainly feeling it on night 3.
He's been doing a good job, I think.
Drew McIntyre comes out, and everyone was wondering, where's the sign? Where's the sign? And Drew pointed it out for everyone. That was really helpful, and we all got to see it.
Really big this year.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like the shape of a... Man, we're going the full pirate theme. Mike Murray suggested that they should encourage people to have like a pirate-themed costume party, like Vegas with the togas.
Like
all the fans show up dressed as pirates.
Did they encourage the audience for WrestleMania 9 to dress up in togas?
Yeah, they wanted people to show up in toga. That's what they were promoting as the world's largest toga party.
Oh, right. Yeah. They can do that. Yeah. I mean, it'd be wildly obnoxious being in Tampa, seeing all these people with eye patches. It'd be dangerous seeing people drive with eye patches. That's what I'm afraid of. But, sure. How unfortunate.
Get Tony Chimmel introducing the rated R superstar.
Yep, they could do that. Yeah. How unfortunate that, the one time they have a pirate themed show, I mean, your pirate, Kairi Sane, is no longer playing a pirate.
PCO is no longer a pirate.
the other pirate that you formerly employed is the champion of a rival company right now. So
Man,
maybe he can come back for a one-time appearance.
what was the name of the guy on SmackDown that was the pirate? Paul Burchill?
Paul Burchill, yeah, so he can come back.
Why wasn't he in the Rumble?
Well, Andre Battle Royal, perhaps?
Perhaps, maybe. You could go back and get some of these pirates. Drew McIntyre is, he talks about someone's got to pinch him. He's been dreaming for the past 24 hours, and he's not playing any games. He's challenging Brock Lesnar for the title at WrestleMania. He's not terrified of Lesnar. He knows he can Claymore him and beat him for the title, and he says, I want to have a Claymore party.
A Claymore party. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Mom, I'm going to a
I'm
Claymore
sending the
party.
invitation back on that one. I am not RSVPing to the Claymore party.
Claymore party. Like,
Wow.
what is that, like a Play-Doh party?
They got
Pottery
to ditch.
party?
They got to ditch that term quick. I hope this is not like we're going to get this term over.
Claymore party? Or Claymore?
Yes. Claymore party.
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this before. The Claymore is a sword, right? Scottish sword.
Yes.
So, it sounds like a dangerous party.
A sword party.
A sword fight. Yeah. No, I like the promo a lot. I think he really comes across as a babyface that's full of confidence.
Yep.
So many guys, especially when they go up against Brock Lesnar, they do the underdog thing, doubting themselves, showing fear as they're about to go up against this unbeatable monster in Brock. And those guys make it work. But I think when you have somebody of Drew's size and stature, fans are certainly ready for somebody who feels confident that they could beat Brock Lesnar and is so confident that, they don't hesitate at all at calling Brock out after winning the Rumble. And in this case, so confident that he's willing to take on two guys at the same time.
Yeah, I thought when he first walked out, it wasn't a gigantic reaction he got coming off the Royal Rumble, but I would say once he got into the ring and the music ended, like the crowd was into him. But I mean, he is still there's still work to be done with Drew McIntyre over these 10 weeks to get him up to that level of WrestleMania challenger. But I think that it's been a tremendous 24-hour period for him. The Rumble was very strongly booked, and I think he greatly was enhanced by that win. So he asks who has the balls to fight him. Anderson and Gallows come out. They're ready for a Claymore party, and we get a handicap match. Claymores to both guys, and he just puts Gallows on top of Anderson and pins both in 2:19 as Jerry Lawler says that he has single-handedly beat the best tag team in the world.
Oh, please.
They had the trophy to prove it.
Oh, that is
best
true.
team in the world.
You know what? I guess he wasn't bullshitting. That is a fact. This crowd was so into this countdown before the Claymore. This 3-2-1 thing. I mean, whoever came up with it is just really quite brilliant. Like, it is so stupid, but you know what I've come to realize? Is that we're all stupid. We're so easy to please. We just want something easy to chant along with. We just want numbers, okay, in sequence that we can count along with, and you got us. 3, 2, 1, boom. That's it.
Maybe Brock's going to start doing it with the F5. He's going to count down from 5.
Every wrestler should count 3, 2, 1 before they hit their finisher.
Oh my God, that would be painful. So Drew is standing tall when Brock Lesnar appears from behind and hits him with the F1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and lays out Drew. And the match is officially announced for WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre, which is the only match officially announced so far for Mania.
Yeah, you're right. Brock versus Drew. I think you still have a lot of work to do with Drew McIntyre at the moment. That is not a match that feels like it's a big match. But nonetheless, there's a great deal of momentum behind Drew if they continue this push as strongly as they have over the past 24 hours. And more importantly, if the audience continues to take them as much as they have over the past 24 hours, it definitely has the potential. Ultimately, you're looking for somebody who can equal or even be a successor to Brock Lesnar. And I think Drew is, as good of a candidate as you might get.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have been so sure a month or two ago about that, but they've done a good job with Drew here, and I think his promos have been very good too, and I think you can certainly see that confidence in him that this is the biggest push of his career, and there is a really great story to tell with Drew McIntyre of this guy from the time he was introduced by Vince McMahon as the chosen one a decade ago to really floundering in his first run, getting fired, working his way back, and now all of a sudden in a top spot, and it feel like the audience seems to be taking to it pretty well.
Yeah. Like, I mean, remember the
3-man band?
No, that also the documentary that
David Lagana
did.
Yep.
Yeah, to go from that weekend at WrestleMania to where he is now, pretty crazy.
Yeah, where you and I were watching him at Evolve, and then he was popping up at TakeOver that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So Edge did not open the show. They saved Edge for the final segment of the show and built up to his appearance by airing all of these classic clips from his career, the TLC match at WrestleMania X7, the cash-in on John Cena in Albany in 2006, his Royal Rumble win from 2010, and then his retirement speech in 2011. So they were not going to make you forget that Edge was showing up. I feel like this will be the ultimate test of, can they at all mitigate that third hour drop? My prediction is they do not, because I think no matter what, that third hour goes down. But they were going to put their biggest thing in that final segment tonight.
It was certainly a test by the time that third hour rolled around, considering I think the quality of content that they put on preceding that Edge thing. You have to be a really big Edge fan, I think, in order to survive that. So, and I think we're at the point now where, like, even if you're a wrestling fan, you know that you could just find this clip on Twitter or YouTube, like, the day after. So
also tonight, ESPN was re-airing Kobe Bryant's final game in the NBA from a few seasons ago, and that was airing at 9:00, and I bet you that had enormous viewership tonight.
Sure, yeah.
Rey Mysterio comes out, and we get a video highlights of MVP, and MVP is back for his second night in a row. And we get a singles match here between these two. Chant of "You still got it," which I think every wrestler hates that chant.
He seemed to like it here, though. Like, how disappointing would it be if you're a guy returning like MVP and you don't get that chant? Isn't that worse?
Well, I've just heard more wrestlers like complain about that chant than take it as a chant of endearment, even though I think that's how it's meant by the audience. I don't think they're trying to say like, "Oh, we thought you were washed up, but you're not." But I think that's how a lot of the wrestlers take it. They mentioned that MVP's 5-year-old son got to see him wrestle because they were in Houston on Sunday, and his favorite wrestler is Rey Mysterio. They went through a commercial break. Rey was put in place and took the ball and elbow, and then he came back, head scissors, and we just got this messed up 619 where Rey runs into the rope, and as he's running, MVP like stands up and starts walking away, and we get the, as Tom Phillips dubbed it, the 6-1 spine.
Wow.
Where he caught him in the back with his kick, and then Rey just didn't stop. He just proceeded with a springboard splash and pinned him. And I mean, it was very awkward looking, but they made it like they didn't like just freeze. They just kept going.
I think it was intentional. I mean,
for what? He was supposed to hit him in the back
to work the spine. Why not? I don't know if I think Tom Phillips is good. I don't know if he's that good to be able to come up with that on the spot like that. And also, it really did feel to me like it was part of the finish. How MVP like, why would MVP get up in the middle of a 619 for no reason? You know,
why would you toy around with the biggest pop of the match, which is always going to be the 619? Like, I just don't know why you would mess with that.
I feel like this was just something that maybe veterans would do just to change it up a little and give us something different from what we've seen a million times before, which is a typical 619 with a splash. I mean, okay, whether or not it was planned, I thought it played out pretty flawlessly, because whether or not it was intentional or a save, it was logical. He kicked him in the back with the 619 and then finished him with the splash to the back. So it made sense by the end.
So Rey gets the win. Do you think we see MVP again, or do you think this was probably just he came in for a second night and that's probably it?
This was really interesting to me because, like, I guess last year, what did we have? We had Jeff Jarrett do a match after Rumble as well.
We had Jeff Jarrett show up for. I mean, granted, he's there on the road with them, but yeah, we saw Jeff for a couple appearances after the Rumble last year.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure if you'd get the same with MVP. I was a little surprised that he did get the match here, and not just a match, but a match that I felt like was pretty substantial. And I was really happy for him. You know, if you're watching like something like him on The Wrestlers, the guy talks about kind of being at the end of his road, nearing retirement, wrestling in like indie venues, doing comedy matches. But here, like, not only did he receive a good amount of time and space to craft a substantial match, he had one against one of the greatest wrestlers of all time on national TV. And
his kid's favorite wrestler. I mean, that had to be really cool.
Wrestler, for sure. I thought this was a really good match. I thought Ray looked great. I thought MVP really looked good too. He looked to be in shape. Technique was crisp. Timing was crisp. I mean, I guess some of it depends on how you interpreted the finish. I thought it was planned, but who knows at this point. I think the only thing missing though was audience reaction. Yeah. Unfortunately, MVP just isn't the type of name that evokes a great deal of nostalgia nor like warmth, you know, from the audience. He's still a very good performer, but I see less incentive in retaining him for star power because unfortunately it doesn't seem to be that much coming from at least just the name MVP. Yeah,
in a perfect world, I think he could transition and be a great manager. Hint for Bobby Lashley, like they had an impact. But as well, like I could certainly see a value of WWE having this guy as someone that they send out to do a lot of community work, speeches. If you've seen this guy's TED Talk, it's phenomenal. And he's a really great story of a guy who's very open about his past and what he learned from it. He's a great public speaker. And to me, he could be a great ambassador for this company if they're looking at a role for him outside of the ring. I think there is an option there.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Aleister Black defeated the Cruiserweight Classic alumni Kenneth Johnson in 34 seconds.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. Just hit a black mass really quickly and then grabbed the microphone. My Twitter lit up. I'm not going to disappoint. Last night, I got eliminated in the Royal Rumble. But before you think that people like Buddy Murphy or Seth Rollins are to blame, the only person accountable is me. If I start something and don't end it, that loss is on me, and I own that loss. I have made the mistake of waiting for people to come to me to pick a fight with me. As of now, the Raw locker room, that changes. You are no longer the one that picks a fight with me. No, I will bring the fight to you. So it's taken this guy 9 months to realize no one cares about coming and knock on your door. We're busy. We've got stuff to do. You've got to initiate.
He's wasted like a lot of time.
A lot of time, dude. He was called up a year ago.
A lot of gas, driving, a lot of
could have driven to Anchorage in this time.
Yeah, it was 9 months. He could have gone around the world probably like 15 to 30 times. Probably did. So, anyway, I'm glad he came to his senses. You know what? Unlike last week, we actually got a promo here at the end of the squash match. And to my knowledge, I don't know if he's cut this type of promo before in front of a crowd. How did you find it in front of an audience?
This came across like this was much smoother from him. It wasn't like the over-the-top delivery that I think he's in a pre-tape setting in a room. I think he's more enunciating so much, and I think that's what I kind of would be drawn to. And in this, he did come across more as a natural speaker here, but I don't know. This is a guy that I would not make promos his forte. Like this is a guy, but that is a requisite. It seems like I think it's a good sign that they're allowing him to talk. It means to me that they're serious about the guy.
I think promos promos are necessary for everybody, and I don't think there's a problem at all. In fact, there's no problem at all with letting him talk. In fact, I think he absolutely needs to. It's I think the promo style. I appreciate the fact that they've tried something different with him and they've given him his own unique voice, but did this crowd shit on this? Did they pepper this with what chance? No, they didn't. They were attentive. but that they love it, it's really hard to say, because I wouldn't say they were necessarily reacting very big for any of this at all.
All they wanted was edge on this show. That seemed to be what this audience wanted.
I think if Aleister Black just came out and talked like a normal person, there's something about the way he speaks that just feels incredibly forced, is not very relatable, and ultimately I just find a little bit dorky and kind of weird. Like, he does these kicks that just make him look like the coolest guy in school, but then he starts talking and it's just like, oh, okay, like, you know, you're not that cool. Like, so I think it kind of holds him back, you know, like the fact that he has a unique voice is not a bad thing at all, but maybe it's just too unique right now.
Needs MVP. Maybe that's what he needs.
That'd be quite the pair.
Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy come out. Rollins talked about how close he was to winning the Rumble the second year in a row, but then got eliminated by Drew. But the positives are they eliminated Owens and Joe, and they're not going to WrestleMania. He called Buddy his newest disciple. And then Owens and Joe come out. They cut a promo about Rollins talking too much, and they ask where AOP are because they must be hidden, and they're going to jump them during their tag title match. And AOP appears on the screen. Joe calls bullshit on this, saying, "We know that's a pre-tape." And Rollins said, "Are you calling me a liar?" And he asks one of them a question, and they respond. And instead of Owens and Joe just ending up looking like idiots, they outsmarted Rollins because now he has revealed where AOP is backstage, allowing the Viking Raiders to jump them. So these Viking Raiders, they were there in lightning quick speed.
Yeah, they must have like superpowers or something. Like, it took them like 2 seconds to find this room and walk in.
Yeah, AOP just got pummeled.
Yeah. I thought this was like kind of clever, calling out sort of like the pre-tape versus live dynamic of these like Titantron appearances. It was fine. I think as a way to promise that this match wouldn't have any interference, it worked.
Yeah, I was waiting for Viking Raiders to go attack them, and right as they're about to swing, they would cut away to a fan.
Yes, a lot of criticism about that last night.
You know, so many people were upset about that, and I was just thinking, do you think for 1 second that the WWE does not have 10,000 angles of this thing? Don't worry, that spear was caught, and before the end of the day, they had alternate footage out.
Did
of
the
Edge
WWE
spearing.
show it then? Because all the angles I saw were like fan.
No, WWE put out a new video tonight on. I saw it on like YouTube,
on
I think. Not on Raw. They put it online, but they showed. Okay. Yeah. WWE had multiple angles.
I'll tell you what's odd is that like even like you had Dolph Ziggler ask for the angle. Like Dolph Ziggler actually like kind of turned this into to me like a bigger.
Well,
thing.
he was pissed. He probably went to the back. He wanted to like see the spear that he took. And could you imagine sitting down and watching this and seeing that cutaway if you're Dolph Ziggler?
Dolph Ziggler's official tweets, okay? Who cuts away from an official in-ring return while two opponents are running towards each other? People make mistakes. We all do, and I have made tons. That being said, a very special moment was inexplicably missed. Anyone got cell phone footage?
Well, if you go to their YouTube right now, they have it. It's called Unseen Footage of Edge's Royal Rumble Return.
Yeah.
And they've got the clean spear.
Yeah. You know, I can't... Definitely, I think the WWE tries too hard to like craft these moments with like crowd shots at inopportune times, and I'm sure whoever was directing that show last night was not very happy with that error. I mean, that said, like it's so many of these like scenes have I think been made more special because of great crowd shots. So you can't really have it both ways. Certainly, like, it takes a great deal of sensitivity to be able to say, this is the time to cut to the crowd, this is not. And yes, it was probably a mistake to do it during the entrance last night. At the same time, like, The Undertaker, the big bulgy eye dude, or the Miz girl, or all these other things. It's like, you can't really have one without the other. And I saw people calling out how, like, why does WWE insist on so many crowd shots? Well, fuck, it's like, because it makes these moments special. And last night, Edge coming out was supposed to be a special moment that they wanted to, showcase the atmosphere of. And unfortunately, a mistake was mistimed. And that's what you got. But I think as usual, it's like people overreacting over like a mistake.
Yeah, that was it. I think that there is a larger discussion you can have on some of the WWE's tendencies. Like I saw the stat that Sean Ross Sapp pointed out that during the Edge's return, like that actual clip of him coming out, there were 40 camera cuts in like 90 seconds.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of cuts.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's probably got, whoever was in charge maybe got a little bit excited. It was an exciting moment.
There's actually a really good podcast with the producers of the Super Bowl this Sunday that they spoke to Richard Deitch on the Sports Media podcast, and they. I was only listening to this like a couple of days ago, so it was kind of funny with this Edge thing, but they literally talked about their philosophy when it comes to crowd shots. And granted, it's a very different feel when you're talking about broadcasting a football game versus a pro wrestling event where the crowd is so much more a part of the show rather than just sort of accessories that are viewing a football game. But it's interesting just to see from, people that have produced multiple Super Bowls, how they approach like when they show someone in the crowd and when they do it like later in the game as well. So it's interesting stuff if you're into that kind of thing. So Rollins and Buddy Murphy versus Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens for the Raw tag titles. To set up the commercial break, we had Owens leap off the apron onto Rollins and then Joe deliver a tope suicida to Buddy Murphy. And when we came back from commercial, Samoa Joe had been removed from the match after the way he landed from the dive. And it was a 2-on-1 handicap match for the rest of the match.
So from what you could tell, this was like, just storyline, right?
Well, Mike Johnson had an update stating it was legit.
Really?
But I will say, watching this, it just, not only did it set up like an out for Owens to lose, but I thought like this match, if this was a real injury, then I give credit to all these three because like they worked this match seamlessly with all these like spots of Owens trying to overcome the two, that it just seemed like this removal of Joe just seemed too perfect.
Well, it was this and as well the Disputed Era Imperium match over the weekend that I think were really interesting examples of like great improvisation and I think a great handling of like wrestler injury in the middle of a match. It surprises me that this was a legitimate injury, like you said, because I think it the way it played out almost felt like it was intentional. And I mean, I didn't really pay specific attention to that dive, but it just seemed like it was, like any other dive that Joe's done in the past. So unfortunate if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, again, like if it was legit here, then credit to the three that were involved because it was worked out very well here through the end of this match. It was, Owens just trying to get the advantage on one, and then the other would run in to save. We had Rollins run into a pop-up powerbomb, kicked out of that. Then Murphy got dumped off the turnbuckle and Owens landed a swanton. Seth came in to break that up. Owens was draped on the bottom rope, avoided the stomp, and then hit a stunner to Rollins, but with his back turned, Buddy Murphy rolls him up at 15 minutes and 48 seconds. So Rollins and Murphy retain the Raw tag titles over, just Kevin Owens.
On paper, I was really looking forward to this match. And I think if there's any positive we can already take from this like Rollins heel run, it's that we get to see Buddy Murphy in the mix with these guys on Raw rather than like being stuck on 205 Live. Like he belongs up there with like Seth Rollins and Joe and Owens on like on a Raw stage. And unfortunately, I didn't think this match lived up to those expectations. And of course, knowing the fact that there might be legitimate injury here and that the three of them had to scramble, I think more than explains why that might be. As a match, I felt the reaction to it maybe a little bit flat, but it's understandable if that's the case.
Charlie was interviewing Becky Lynch, who said that she had been doubting herself, but then last night after beating Asuka, it finally hit her. I'm in another league than all of these other dopes, and she did like her Conor McGregor style promo here. She said the next ass she kicks is the one she wants to, not the one she needs to. And when asked about Charlotte Flair potentially challenging her, she said, if Flair challenges me, it won't be the first time, but it will be the last time. And then she showed off her new GOAT logo on the back of her jacket. And that was it. Nothing for Becky Lynch tonight. No tease of Shayna Baszler. Nothing in terms of what's next for her. Just this quick promo.
The tease really was like Charlotte, the potential of like having to face Charlotte again. You know, it just seems like they're dangling that carrot a little bit longer before revealing who her real opponent might be.
Yeah, which as long as you're holding that up, you can't really proceed with Becky's next program as long as Charlotte is in storyline still an option for her. So they're kind of in a holding pattern until they want to set up Charlotte's program for Mania.
You kind of need that holding pattern, don't you, with 10 weeks? It's a long time.
You do. It's just like, you know, let's say it's like 2 or 3 weeks. It's just like Becky's kind of just twiddling her thumbs here on the show.
Yeah.
Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo for the United States title. There was no explanation why Humberto was getting a rematch the very next night for the title.
After losing.
Yes. Saxton called Andrade a certifiable a-hole. Andrade was in control here, and then Carrillo fought back.
Okay, so yeah, Saxton calls Andrade that. You know what Jerry Lawler called Humberto Carrillo?
Oh no, I missed it.
Cute.
Oh, I did catch him. He did call him cute and put over his dimples.
And reminds him of Justin Bieber, which I think is great if you're, you know, trying to compliment like your nephew.
Is Justin Bieber a compliment in 2020?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, is this the type of commentary you would want for a serious competitor? You know? But Jerry's not wrong. I think the guy looks like far too much like a child to be considered like, I don't know, that serious of a threat.
Like, there was a time though, like Justin Bieber was like in that you know, teenage heartthrob category. I don't think he's quite. Maybe I'm just out of it. Is he?
Well, he's certainly not like a mature.
Guy's all
audience.
inked up now. He's looking more Machine Gun Kelly now than, you know, the.
I think that's what the teens are into.
Okay. Not exactly I'm looking at this one photo. Humberto Carrillo would not be the parallel I would make.
I suppose you have to ask Jerry Lawler which iteration of Justin Bieber, which era, which Bieber he was thinking of.
So the match continues. There's a spin kick, and Humberto successfully kicks the hand of Andrade that they kind of called out, and then hits a better one as he comes off the rope, and then hits a moonsault off the top. And after 10.5 minutes, he goes for the cover, and Zelina Vega just runs in for the disqualification. Carrillo just continues his attack. He sends Andrade into the steps, removes the padding, and hits the hammerlock DDT to Andrade. That is a 30-day recovery period. The star of this match was Zelina Vega.
Doing the run-in at the end specifically? or
Not so much the run-in. It was when they would cut to her in the on the apron, like just her facial reactions, like she is in more pain watching Andrade get beaten. And then her performance as Carrillo hit this hammerlock DDT, like she was nearly in tears as a result of this.
You're right. She's always great. Yeah. And I didn't even mind the finish here. I think it gives Carrillo an out with a bit of credibility as the rightful winner here. It also makes you wonder if Zelina will be sticking around to feud with Carrillo by finding somebody else.
Oh, man, is Zelina going to move on?
Well, I mean, 30 days is a long time. Are you going to ice her too?
Yeah, I mean, that would be really unfortunate if she gets iced. But, I mean, that's kind of like when we saw all the stuff like with
the Usos.
With the Usos, it's like, okay, one's dealing with this issue, so both of them are going to be kept off.
Yeah, rather unfortunate. You know,
like AOP last year, when one got hurt, they just, you know, they kind of just view these as like one act, and like if one's hurt, well, both are off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's you know, another start for Humberto Carrillo. It just feels like he's like kind of like next in that block, like, you know, your Cedric Alexanders or whoever, to get a bit of a start before they decide to cool off on him again. And who knows, like, what the idea was before Andrade might have got suspended with Humberto Carrillo. Was he just supposed to have lost last night and that was it? Or was this sustained push supposed to occur anyway? To me, he's definitely cooled down from, I think, when Paul Heyman initially started on Raw, as, you know, I think as evidenced by the lack of reaction last night, and I think tonight to his comebacks. Something is certainly holding him back, and my personal feeling is that, he's an amazing wrestler, but I think the look holds him back a little bit. Like, being compared to Justin Bieber is not exactly inaccurate. And I think the haircut looks really silly as well. So it's that, plus maybe the inability to promo to make up for like some of that and also the lack of a sustained push that I think it might be preventing him from getting to that next level.
No, if I had to compare the two, if you're looking for your young Hispanic babyface, I would certainly be looking at Angel Garza over Humberto at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's just so much more charismatic than Humberto. Just more dynamic in that role that I think would have been, if you slot him into this role with Andrade, I think he would have connected a lot more at this point with we have seen him connect.
Could it be possible that he's gonna be Zelina's new guy?
Maybe. I mean, he just lost the Cruiserweight title, and you could slot him into this seamlessly.
Interesting.
Then we had Charlotte Flair come out, points to the sign. She announces that at WrestleMania, she's going to face the champion of her choosing. It's in 10 weeks. She's still thinking about it. And that was that. The Kabuki Warriors came out. Asuka screamed and yelled and said if she was in the Rumble, she would have won. And that set up a match between Charlotte and Asuka.
I think after struggling for so long with like people like Asuka and Shinsuke, they found a promo style that works for Asuka. Her promos, if you can really call them that, like really it's just like kind of screaming and then occasional like broken pieces of broken English and then easy peasy in there. Whatever they are, they elicit a pretty good reaction thus far. They keep her talking brief and they immediately move to physicality with her. And it's working, I think.
The match took a while for the audience to kind of get into, and then they worked up to some near falls that I think that's when they really got them here. We saw Charlotte miss the moonsault off the top, and then Asuka rolled into this bizarre looking submission that Flair escaped, and then Asuka applied a triangle. Flair powerbombed her. Flair then came off the ropes with a spear for a 2 count. That got a big reaction, and she struggled to get to the figure 8, and then when she finally bridged up, Kairi came off the top with the insane elbow for the DQ at 14 minutes and 10 seconds, and then Flair just fought off Kairi, and I just thought the back-to-back with the DQs, and this one going, 14 minutes, it's a long time to go when this is the finish, but maybe this is, just Charlotte's going to be dealing with these two for the next few weeks.
Then... but still, like, it just sours, I think, the entire show when you have like 40 minutes of TV time and no finishes. You have a lot of wrestling, but just like 2 DQs in a row is a little too much. 1 is fine, but 2 in a row, I think, is pretty inexcusable. Never mind the fact that this is Charlotte versus Asuka, and granted, like, this is not like their first match, not even their second or third match together. According to Cage Match, this is their fourth singles televised match between these two. So it's not nearly as important as it was the first couple times, but still, I think it's a pretty big marquee rivalry that I still at least romanticize in my head when thinking about all the top stars in the women's division. And I think just giving it away on a TV impromptu match with no promotion at all just like further cheapens it. And so I found myself watching Charlotte versus Asuka on TV with like no desire really to even see the result. Crowd was quiet. I found myself checking my phone, and really it's no fault of the performers at all because these two always they always deliver in the ring, but like I have no reason to see who wins. There's no storyline attached to it, and by the end of it you didn't even give me a finish. So I didn't like this. I thought it was a waste of a protected rivalry, and I mean the finish sucked itself.
Yeah, I really didn't like the back-to-back DQs. This was just, a way out of the match. And I think, once you're going that amount of time, that's the finish. It's gonna be met with a lot of negativity. Oh, which is what I met this next segment with. The Street Profits are in the back. They start dancing, and then in comes Kelly Kelly. The chemistry among these three has to be seen to be believed. Montez Ford actually did a pretty good job of trying to sing Kelly's theme song. And then Dawkins introduces himself and makes a bunch of nicknames of himself, ending with Doc Vader. And Kelly says, "Did you say Doc Vader?" "Yup." "Okay." And then they proceeded to dance with like the level of emotion you would expect people to be jamming at a wake. This was awful.
It was terrible. It was like it was nonsensical is what it was. Like,
this was the epitome of like just forcing a role for Kelly on this show that was just so terrible.
I thought Asuka's promo made more sense than this. But this was like one line after another that just like had no reason to exist. Like what? So it was like it was Kelly questioning whether Angelo Dawkins just said Doc Vader, and Angelo Dawkins says yep, and then Montez Ford comes back saying like, "That's great, we want the smoke." Like that was pretty much the gist of it. It was just a lot of words for the sake of having words on TV. And it was just really just shit TV.
Like if this were real, what was the impetus for Kelly to walk up to these two? What did she have in mind? What was the goal of this conversation? Was it just to say, "Hi, I'm Kelly. Nice to meet you"? What was the purpose of this? She just walked in just to be here. I'm giving way too much thought for this dreadful 60 seconds, but my God, have they just done such a number with the Street Profits that I can't stand these two anymore.
Yeah. It's rough.
Backstage, WWE Backstage, we'll have Roman Reigns and the Usos with Xavier Woods on the show from Miami on Tuesday night. Mojo Rawley comes out with Riddick Moss, who is now his offensive lineman. So, does this mean this is a football player that tells off-color jokes?
Huh.
Okay. Mojo cuts a promo. He says, "Is the title going to be defended in the ring? No way. This is no longer the hide-and-go-seek championship, and I need a strong offensive lineman to watch my blind side." And he introduces Moss, who says, "If you come for this title, you're about to get blocked."
Mm-hmm. Is that what they do? Is that what an offensive lineman does?
Well, that's my strategy. If you're offensive to me, I block you.
Right.
So it's the same in football.
Got it.
I actually didn't mind Mojo's promo here, and it's like, here's the guy that, and now he's got his hired muscle. It's Riddick Moss of all people. That, I mean,
does he not have?
If you were to tell me,
does he not have a football background?
Oh, he does. Yeah, like that's I'm sure why he's getting the role, but it's just odd that you look at NXT like this guy hasn't been on TV, and I can't remember the last time this guy was on TV.
I feel like he's one of those guys who's just like, let's just get him out of here. Like he's been taking up a locker in the Performance Center for like 6 years. It's time to make space, you know? I'm happy for this guy. Like he's been stuck there. Like this guy was signed in 2014. And if you're going to have any chance of getting Riddick Moss called up to the main roster, it's going to be something like Mojo Rawley's protege in the 24/7 division. You know, like imagine that casting call.
I'll take it.
Otherwise, this guy was just going to be a lifer in the PC, so I'm sure they're just happy to get rid of him.
What I want is one of those WWE PC YouTube videos where Matt Bloom brings in Riddick Moss and they have that emotional moment where they're fighting back tears. He says, "Riddick, you're going to be the offensive lineman for Mojo Rawley in the comedy segment every week." Oh my God.
I feel so bad.
I can't believe it.
I feel like we're being such dicks, but you know what? There's a story to be told, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure that moment, like, legitimately might have been really big for him, you know, just to get called up on Raw. But, listen, we'll see. You know, this could be the start of a long, prosperous run.
Well, this match wasn't long or prosperous. He murdered No Way Jose. He dropped him off his shoulders onto the mat and pinned him in 24 seconds. and then one of the conga dancers came in an outfit, rolled up Mojo for the win, and it's R-Truth. And as R-Truth goes to leave, Riddick Moss blocks him from leaving, and Mojo wins the title back. Mission accomplished.
He literally blocked him. Like, he just stood in R-Truth's path.
It was awesome. There was no other exit.
Yeah, so I think if your intent is to show that Riddick Moss is actually good at his job, why wouldn't he have stopped R-Truth from winning the belt in the first place? You know? Like, I think if your intent was to like rebrand this 24/7 title and to have Mojo Rawley sort of feel like a different champion, I definitely wouldn't have had R-Truth just be able to schoolboy him to pin him at first try. There's no harm in having a near fall attempt here with like Riddick Moss getting in the way and stopping it. Instead, I think just to, I don't know, add another number to that like Wikipedia page, they had Mojo really look like a fool, I think.
They showed the lowlights of the Lana Bobby Lashley wedding segment and Liv confronting Lana, and all of this led to the match with Lana and Liv Morgan. That's how Liv go after Lana, hit a step up in Saguri, and then a flatliner off the middle rope, and Liv Morgan won this thing in 2 minutes, 37 seconds. I'll say this, that, you know, it was short, but I thought Liv Morgan looked fine here.
I thought technically it was pulled off pretty well, including that springboard flatliner. So yeah, like we've said, and people have said over previous weeks, I think Liv Morgan definitely has shown improvement. I will say though, for a match that I think had such a big angle attached to it, and for a character like Lana that's received so much airtime, there was no reaction to this at all. You know, this match happened, cared. 2 minutes passed, and now everyone's forgotten about it. And I don't know where Liv Morgan, like, do you think this feud continues or what?
Oh. I think this thing's going to go into eternity.
Yeah. Like, Liv Morgan, I think for all the high hopes maybe everybody might have had after those vignettes, a month following that re-debut, I almost feel like she's in the same place she was at during the Riot Squad. You know,
I think this whole Lana thing really detoured Liv Morgan, but, you know, you can tell, like, she has certainly improved, and I hope that, you know, she can just segue into something else once this thing is finally just flushed down the toilet.
Yeah.
Eric Rowan destroyed Brandon Weiss with the Iron Claw in 64 seconds, just right back to the Rowan squashes as though the Rumble did not exist, and we're just going right back to this thing with Rowan.
By this point, it was like, this crowd had enough, you know? Like this
was the main event, Brandon Weiss in the main event of Raw.
This crowd just wanted to see Edge, and like by this point, it was like dud segment after dud segment for this crowd, so I don't blame them for the non-reaction here at all. I mean, it was just like, I feel bad because like Rowan didn't really answer for like being thrown out by Brock Lesnar last night. So we're just kind of, I don't know, we're supposed to forget about it, I suppose.
So the final segment, what everyone had waited for, Edge comes out, huge pop. They're chanting his name, and he gets the microphone and talks about being medically disqualified from doing this 9 years ago. But he started to feel better, and he started to ask the question, what if? So he ended up having a second neck surgery and ended up getting into the best shape of his life at the age of 46 so he can end his career on his terms.
Sorry to cut you off, but like I was looking for in this promo, I thought he was going to get into exactly what he did to like somehow come back from like a career-ending neck injury. And he said, like, as much as the explanation as we were going to get was, I got another neck surgery. Like, do you think that'll ever come out?
I would imagine, given that they were following him around all weekend and there'll probably be one of those chronicles or something on him, I'm sure, and he's going to be interviewed plenty going into WrestleMania, so I'm sure the whole story will come out. And Edge is one of those guys, too, that he's, well, I should say this with the caveat of this doesn't apply when he's trying to build up a return and not tell anyone, but generally, he's pretty forthright and honest about things that I think the story will come out about all the things that he had to go through, because I'm sure it's a fascinating story.
Do we know that Van Halen wasn't playing? Or Pearl Jam, I mean?
Pearl Jam.
Maybe he was en route to a concert and was like, oh, there's wrestling in town. Maybe I can make a comeback.
Maybe so. He mentions all of the names that he encountered in the Royal Rumble, and he doesn't know how long this comeback is going to last. He's a bit older, a bit grayer, but one thing he has is grit. If he gets knocked down, he gets back up. And this prompts Randy Orton to come out, and he gives Edge a hug, and he talked about having problems in his younger days and putting himself into a hole that he couldn't dig himself out of, and there was Edge to help pull him out of that hole. And he welcomes Edge home. He says Edge is like a brother. He's family to him, and their chemistry is special. And he's got his own what if. What if Rated RKO got to back together one more time? And as they're standing there, and the audience is really into this, he nails Edge with an RKO, and everyone's stunned. And Orton goes and he gets a chair. He attacks Edge. He then places the chair around Edge's neck, and he climbs onto the turnbuckle that he's going to Pillmanize him. And he's looking remorseful, and he ends up hopping off the turnbuckle, not attacking him. And he goes to leave, but then runs back to ringside, grabs 2 chairs, and he ends it with a concerto onto Edge as the crowd chanted asshole at him. At least a few people did. And that's how the show ended. And Randy was, I thought, like, some people really get on Randy for being just slow or methodical, but I thought that, like, he did not rush through any of this, and it really sunk in with the crowd, and I think they were really pissed by the end at Randy Orton. So I thought the angle got over pretty well.
I mean, I hear those criticisms as it relates to maybe his in-ring, but I would never criticize somebody for taking their time and being slow and methodical when it comes to doing an angle like this, which I think Randy Orton is a master. And I think what we saw here was a masterclass in pacing and just working from Randy Orton. You know, seeing his acting through all this, like his facial expressions, milking all the reaction and drama he could possibly get from the moment from this audience. I thought this was one of Randy's best performances. This was, to me, one of Orton at his best. The entire thing I thought was awesome. You know, I think let's start off with Edge. Like, he to me has like some, you know, the type of thing that I think Daniel Bryan has. This moment very much felt like, you know, the Daniel Bryan return to me, where he comes out and you could just see like the emotion on his face. And when I see a guy look like he's about to cry, I want to start to cry, because I mean, I feel like I'm watching an important moment every time Edge has been on TV for the past, you know, I guess several appearances that he's made. And promo or speech, if you want to call it that, was great. I think the Rated RKO tease certainly, I think, was a little bit shocking to me, because we all knew, I think, eventually they were probably going to do something with Orton and Edge. But I expected maybe the turn to come a little bit later and not right at this moment. But I don't mind it at all. You know, this was great, simple, and a highly effective way to bring us to that program. And maybe if Edge only has a couple matches left, you kind of have to rush. You don't really have time for a Rated RKO thing reunion, and instead you go right to the singles program. It takes Edge out for several weeks or however long it takes, and he immediately has a really hot angle and a really hot opponent to come back to. So I love this. Yeah,
this to me was done really well. I think they really need to tease that Edge is now a question mark if he can do the match at WrestleMania, and you can really build it up effectively. And yeah, I thought this came off very, very well with the two of them, and will be one of the major matches at WrestleMania. With, you know, I hope that they can hold off, and I don't think Edge should wrestle before then. And I think Saudi Arabia is just like, that is a massive show for them, and that's the only, like, they treat that like a WrestleMania. But I hope that they can hold that off, and with this angle they should. So
yeah, I can't think of a bigger opponent. Like, it's not for I mean, yeah. So yeah, maybe at this point you don't have Edge wrestle at all. Maybe other than like a house show tag team match or something.
Mm-hmm. Both guys were great here. Like, Edge, just tremendous promo that just felt so genuine, and even like his selling as well after the, like, where his hand is twitching, and just like these little things that really put it over the top as well. And I thought Randy was fantastic too.
I thought it was especially surprising, considering that Orton had barely just turned babyface.
Mm-hmm.
So I certainly didn't expect this so soon, and it made the surprise that much more effective. So overall Raw, I thought, good first hour, an excellent closing angle, but I thought a really weak middle that really, I think, tested my patience. A lot of uneventful matches, a lot of things that were rushed and maybe some excusable, like if Samoa Joe was injured, I can understand why maybe that was a little bit flat, but maybe a lot of people just waiting for the Edge thing, but it was a lot of segments that really did not excite me at all. But good follow-up for Drew, and again, great angle with Edge and Orton.
Yeah, and we'll see how this episode performs. Like, this is usually one of the most watched Raws of the year. So that will come out on Tuesday. So let's go over to the forum and see what everyone had to say. On a scale of 1 to 10, this show generated a 6.86. So a good rating from the forum. Paul from New Jersey writes, I enjoyed the booking of Drew McIntyre tonight. They kept it simple, and I actually liked the countdown to the Claymore. Jerry Lawler stated that Rey Mysterio could get back to his winning ways tonight in his home state of San Antonio, Texas. Wrong, San, King. How about some of the babyface booking on this show? Owens and Joe getting the Viking Raiders to attack AOP, evening the odds for the tag match. Humberto gets completely screwed out of the U.S. title and makes Andrade pay for it the same way he had to the rest of us. And the rest of us did in that gauntlet match / injury angle. All too often, babyfaces in WWE are made to look like soft idiots, so I very much enjoyed these angles tonight. I would like to thank the WWE for consistently front-loading Raw and leaving all the horse shit in the third hour. The third hour contained perhaps the worst promo thus far from the Street Profits and Kelly, No Way Jose versus Mojo, Rowan's box, and everybody's favorite cuck angle. I feel jet-lagged, and I haven't been on a plane since last February. Good thing it ended with Edge, 6 out of 10.
Brandon from Oshawa says, I thought they might actually have rated RKO team a couple times before the turn, but I'm glad they just came right out with it and ended the show with a big angle. The fans were never going to get behind rated RKO more than they were tonight, so it was perfect. I agree with Paul about the booking of the babyfaces. They've actually done a pretty good job over the last couple months of making Owens in particular look really smart and not fall for every heel tactic. I'm not into Humberto Carrillo, but he's never been more over than he was tonight when he laid out Andrade. Before Edge eventually retires again, do you see at least one more run with the WWE or Universal title?
I don't throw anything out the window. I mean, remember that year when Hogan came back and they just made the snap decision and they put the title on him. And I thought that was a mistake that year to go that far with Hogan, and it kind of wore out its welcome. I don't think Edge needs to be holding the title. If he's going to do a handful of matches, they should just be special matches that are not involving the title.
I guess we don't know if it's a handful of matches that he'll just be doing. They could be saving him up for like the freshness of like a first match for Mania, but if he has a run left in him and if he really catches fire, I wouldn't completely rule out him winning one of the championships.
Anything's possible. Like I wouldn't throw anything out at all. We go on next to Sam. I feel like it might just be me, but I'm not buying Drew McIntyre as a future champion and winner of the Rumble. His recent changes to this crowd-pandering babyface comes off as just hokey and cheesy. I could buy it better if he was this badass destroyer like Sid in late 96 that the crowd just wanted to see destroy Shawn, but I'm not getting that feeling. This feels so manufactured and hollow. I wonder if in a year Drew will just be a bodyguard for Shane McMahon again. I hope I'm wrong. That's Sam from Lincoln, Nebraska. I disagree. I think like Drew, I think that there was a point where he felt very one-dimensional, and I think they've gone to great lengths over this past month to kind of get him into this position, but he's not all the way there yet. I'll definitely grant you that.
I think there's a difference. Like that's a complaint that Sam made that I definitely have of somebody like Lacey Evans, and I feel like the difference between, let's say, those two pushes is the fact that like one is actually really talented in ring, which I think, fans really appreciate. And the other seems really Creed. They're both like decent talkers, but I think maybe with Lacey Evans, it's more of a character who is reading lines, and Drew's certainly that as well. But I feel like with Drew, you can buy a bit more credibility behind his words because I think he has like the in-ring experience to back it up, perhaps. So I agree. I think the audience is taking to him. Andrew from Cape Breton says, I thought Raw was pretty good this week. Apparently it just came out, but Andrade's wellness policy violation, which kind of makes it weird that they didn't just have him drop the belt. but I guess they want to try to give Humberto a bit of an edge. Speaking of edge, they gave him quite a heavy angle going to Mania. The main issue coming out of that is nobody came out to help Edge from Orton attempting to paralyze the guy. And lastly, with MVP returning, I hope they reunite him with Lashley. He and Lashley had incredible chemistry and impact, and Lashley needs all the help he can get after the Rusev angle. Well, why would Lashley all of a sudden ditch Lana for MVP?
I don't think they're blowing that angle up at all after all the time they've put into that one. I do think that's definitely a valid criticism of the Edge one, because I certainly was thinking it. But on the top of that, what's your explanation? Like, how can you explain why no one is coming out to have Edge's back? It's just one of those, you kind of have to like turn that side of your brain off, like to execute. I guess you could have said that.
Well, who would have his friends have been? I guess Ray.
That whole locker room that's grown up watching him, that were in awe of him in the Rumble.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
I mean, the Hawkins and Ryder, the Edgeheads,
they're probably just busy.
Well, I definitely thought of that during the thing, but I was like, what are they going to say? Everyone's locked in the locker room. No one's backstage. I mean, it's just, I think that most fans at this point, they're not even thinking about that stuff, that you can get away with it. And the angle was good enough that I think people will overlook that hole. Gerard writes, I've only seen the second half of the show, but having the 24/7 title defended in a normal match, then doing more title changes afterwards sums up WWE's illogical booking style. Also, Orton turning on Edge could be seen a mile away. Why not try and pop a rating with an RKO reunion match next week on Raw? Because that would be silly to have Edge wrestle on Raw next week, would be my answer.
Alex from Portland says, just a question this week. What match do you see main eventing Mania? I can't see Reigns getting that distinction yet again. McIntyre is a new top star, and a main event might be too much too early. Edge in a possible final match against Orton seems unlikely to close out the show, and since Baszler didn't win the Rumble, I can't imagine the women main eventing again this year. Is there a possible unannounced or rumored match that could main event instead?
Nothing that I've heard. I would imagine it would be one of the title matches that goes on last, and I would include with that I don't throw out the Becky Baszler, if that really caught on big, that they would go to that, but I would say today, just looking at where everything's shaping up, I think like Brock and Drew is going to be pushed as the number one match.
Do you think we have if what you're suggesting, or what it might happen with Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for Mania might occur, does that mean we'll get an NXT men's title defense as well?
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder.
It's possible.
Yeah, I wonder.
Thing is, yeah, you do have the takeover that weekend, but yeah, that's an interesting question. If you would have an NXT title match on WrestleMania, I could see the argument for having it at WrestleMania. But in terms of closing the show, like unless they have some major match involving, some big name from the past or something that we're not aware of, it seems like Edge is like your big name from the past that's on this show.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Will from New York. The closing angle was fantastic because Orton is great when given these kinds of things. Unfortunately, it has to lead to a match, and it's hard not to get disappointed with seeing our returning hero paired with the stalest guy in the company. There's no shortage of fresh matchups and dream scenarios with Edge, but as is par for the course of WWE, they picked the one opponent that's impossible to get excited about. Do you agree with that?
No, not at all. I'm really excited for Edge and Orton.
I think it'll turn out really well. I think people are way too down on Orton at times, and I think that Edge will get the best out of Orton, and it's a major match. That Randy has not had a lot of major matches of late.
Who else has that history with Edge that I think would make for such a interesting rivalry?
Yeah, it's like you could have the other options would have been like the dream match scenarios, people that Edge has never faced, like a Bryan or a Styles, but they wanted to have the personal issue, and I really have no issue with it. I thought the angle tonight was very good.
I don't think the storytelling would be as good with either of those that you suggested. Yeah,
for 10 weeks, I mean that's really tough. Like you couldn't shoot that angle now if you were going to do like say Edge and putting let's just throw AJ into that closing angle tonight, it just wouldn't have had the same gravity to me that Orton would because of the history that you just mentioned.
As a heel, I find AJ more of sort of like a campy, like over the top comedy heel. Whereas I think with an Orton angle, you have the chance of making it like a real serious, violent thing, which they were successful in doing.
Yeah. Great video package you can make on their history as well.
Yes. We got a Nick from Lansing who says, what should have been a celebration episode of Raw ended with one of the most uncomfortable and hard-to-watch segments I can remember. When Orton came out, at first I thought reuniting them would be a smart way to slowly get Edge back into the groove of things, but boy was I wrong. I was also uncomfortable with them including the spear from a ladder so early in the packages about his career. I know it was chronological, but moves like that are a part of his legacy. Yes, but also contributed to his early retirement. It's okay to talk about, but glorifying it and then ending with that angle left a bad taste in my mouth personally. What did the two of you think?
I
didn't think of it at all.
I didn't feel that way at all. That's like, it's the elephant in the room. If you're not going to bring up why he retired and you're using that for heat, it's to me no different than when Shawn came back and making the back the focus. I mean, that's real to people. They are aware of that. I think if you were to ask Edge, I think he would tell you that he's incredibly proud of like spots like that and matches like that, even though they did contribute to his early retirement. I mean, that's just, I don't know the specifics of the injury or like if there's any specific spot that might have caused it. I think it might be different if we're talking about like somebody getting specifically injured in like a suplex gone wrong, or like, Paige getting kicked in the back and like having to retire because of that one big move. But I guess as best as I could tell, like Edge's injuries are more cumulative and really just a result of an in-ring career that, like lasted as long as it did. So, and got spinal stenosis. Like that's what he was dealing with.
Yeah. So I really don't see any reason to like censor parts of his career out of sensitivity, because I highly doubt that he himself would feel sensitive about it.
All right, we go to Diego from San Antonio, who attended the show live. He mentioned for main event, Riddick Moss defeated Cedric Alexander, and he says he enjoyed the show overall, even with a third hour that was only redeemed with Edge's appearance. Overall, nice audience turnout. The hard cam section of the arena had a good number of people occupying it. He goes through some of the highlights here of the show, and just going here. Needless to say, everyone was on their feet for Edge. Great comeback promo from him. I enjoyed the obvious RKO from Orton and the hesitant nature of Orton to continue his wrath. Edge got taken out in a stretcher after the segment, and he gave it a 6.5 out of 10 being there live in the arena.
Thank you, everybody, for your feedback.
Okay. Well, we have come to the end where it's now time to announce the winners of the annual post-wrestling Royal Rumble pool. And Wade, do you have the results in front of you?
I do have them in front of me. Yeah, initially we said we were going to announce this on Rewind at Dynamite, but Chris Engler was working extra hard and was feeling super up to the task of doing all of this overnight. So thank you, Chris Engler, again for everything that you do for the post-wrestling community. And so we have the results of the post-wrestling 2020 Royal Rumble pool. The entrants into the pool this year were 655. And maybe just some stats to start off. The responses with numbers and percentages of people having picked the correct answer as their first pick. How many people, John, do you think picked correctly the men's Rumble winner, Drew McIntyre?
655 people entered. I'll guess 141.
You're exactly right.
Wow.
141 people. That's a remarkable guess, John. 141 people out of 655, or 22% of people guessed that one right. 17% of people accurately predicted Charlotte Flair to win the Women's Rumble. 4% of you accurately predicted that the men's number 2 Rumble entrant would be Elias. It's a very tough one.
Given the song, I could see like more picking Elias, but maybe not. The next one blows me away that 6 people actually got this one.
6 people accurately predicted that Bianca Belair would be the second entrant in the Women's Royal Rumble, which is only 1% of all entrants. So congratulations to all of you. 9 of you accurately predicted that Samoa Joe would be the 29th entrant in the Men's Rumble. That also is a 1% statistic. none of you predicted that Santina Marella would be the 29th entrant in the Women's Royal Rumble. So
that would have been very impressive if anyone got that one.
yeah, I would even start to question what that person might know. The Men's Rumble with the longest, the person who lasted the longest time in the Men's Rumble this year was Drew McIntyre at 34 minutes and 11 seconds, and 6% of you, or 37 of you, accurately predicted that. The person with the shortest time in the Rumble this year was Eric Rowan at 8 seconds, and 4 of you, or 1%, predicted that accurately.
That's amazing that anyone would have picked Rowan to be the shortest in the Rumble.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising, and I think even more surprising that Eric Rowan, like, they made no real effort to, like, have him, I guess, save face from it, other than your typical squash match on this show. 9% or 58 of you predicted that Elias would be the first eliminated in the Men's Rumble, and 102 of you predicted that the last eliminated in the Men's Rumble would be Roman Reigns, or 16%. So, just to kind of finish up here, the categories, the men's surprise entrants, those that qualified, would have been Edge and MVP. So if you accurately predicted that, good for you. The women's surprise entrants this year were Kelly Kelly, Molly Holly, and Santina Marella. And the total time of the Men's Rumble, which was our tiebreaker, is 1 hour and 50 seconds. So, our winners, out of a theoretical maximum of 132 points, which meant that you accurately chose number one choices for all of these things and accurately guessed all the surprise entrants in each Rumble, out of 132 points, we have, coming in at number 3 with 52 points, Kyle McDonough. Coming in number 2 at 55 points out of a possible 132, Kevin H. Kellum. Congratulations.
The silver medal.
And our winner, coming in at a possible 60 points out of 132, Stephen Raffworth. Stephen Raffworth, congratulations to you. You win this year's Royal Rumble pool.
Well, we also have some consolation awards to give out, which Chris has dubbed the 2020 Zero Club. People who came in with 0 points out of a possible 130. You 5 people took an enormous swing and you connected with nothing. I'm talking about Mark Bennett, Tess Botkin, Dave Stewart, I'm sure not the former Oakland A's, Toronto Blue Jays pitcher, Ivan, who did not leave a last name, smartly, and Chris Summerfield. So, guys,
it's a real risk entering these pools because
you'll get called out.
Yeah.
But next year, you can't do worse.
Well, let's hope.
And then my absolute favorite. Every year, we get the strangest and funniest misspellings / autocorrects, and these are some of the gems that were submitted this year, if you will indulge me, Way.
Yes.
Alex Bliss, R-Truth, ARE-Truth, Bath Phoenix, Brain Cage, Brick Lesnar, Brock Leaner, Carnella, Jack the Snake, Jazz / Jacqueline, submitted as a single response.
Oh, no.
Kane Velasquez, spelt K-A-N-E. Kiffy Kingston, Manny Rose, No Way, H-O-S-E, a repeat from last year, Chris notes. Ricochet, Sanction Morella, Shanna Blazer, Shinar Bazaar.
Oh, God.
There's only a few more here. They're all great. Shirty G, The Mix, Tyson Fury with 2 R's, and the best one. This should be the man's new name out of respect to the mayor of Knoxville County, Vane Velasquez.
Wow. Wonderful.
Vane Velasquez. That's my new name that I want to hear the man introduced as. So thank you, folks. Those are my favorites every year.
Now, which ones can you deduce are a result of autocorrect and which stupidity?
I mean, with Cain Velasquez being Vane Velasquez, the C and the V are right next to each other. So I can buy that one, although Velasquez was, it's a minor thing.
The Shayna Baszler misspellings are definitely like not a result of autocorrect.
Shanna Blazer?
Shanar Bazar?
Sanction was an autocorrect from Santino. Possible.
Ricochet.
Ricochet. Keefe Kingston. I don't know.
Certainly Jazz/Jacqueline. That no autocorrect would have done that. So congratulations to that person.
Yeah. Or ARE Truth.
Yeah. That's a weird one. Maybe they were using like speech to text.
Possible. But nonetheless, I can enjoy these no matter how they were submitted. So thank you to everyone.
Yep.
And
congratulations to our winner again. I'll be in contact with you about some prizes from store.postwrestling.com.
And as always, a big thank you to Chris Engler for tabulating all of this and running this pool for us each and every year. Thank you very much, Chris. And thank you to all of you for tuning in to our post-Royal Rumble edition of Rewind to Raw. We're back Tuesday night for Cafe members with Ask Away. We are going to go through all of your mailbag questions. If you're listening to this early Tuesday morning, you can still submit some questions on the forum. If not, tune in Tuesday night. That is when we will speak with you next. So, I now pronounce this podcast over.